Hello everyone! Welcome back to another exciting adventure that is Mr. President. Doing a little late night streaming. Figured I'd play a little bit before I went to bed. Last we left our hero, I believe we were going into, yes, the Ally Rogue Axe, the first one of the turn. Russia had just acted. I believe we got Russia's posture down, which was good. Domestically, I think we are a little rough. Bipartisan cooperation is the lowest it possibly could be. Relations with Congress is extremely low, down to 4. Our media is looking good. Nothing's really happened over here on the conflict tracks. We were doing good with cyber warfare, but Russia did get above us, which is unfortunate. So that made their cyber attacks pretty rough. We are at 3 crises over in Eastern Europe and Africa. That's not good. We should probably get those lower if at all possible. But yeah, I think we are going to do our first act, which is going to be, Allies Rogues Group Act. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to figure out which group of allies and rogues are going to go. We currently do not have very close relations with India or Gulf states. That's unfortunate. So if they were to go, we would not have as many actions with them, but let's see what we do. So we have Ally Group D. So I'm going to have to get out my trusty Ally and Rogue States booklet, which I have right here. And we are going to have to open it up to Group D. Let's see what we got. Group D is going to consist of Canada, Gulf states / Saudi Arabia, and rogue states. So we do have Gulf states / Saudi Arabia. They are going to be going. We do not have very close relations with them. That's unfortunate. Canada, on the other hand, we do have very close relations. So what's going to happen here is there are going to be joint actions that our allies can perform. If we are very close with those allies, they get 2 joint actions. If we are just close, we get 1 joint action. If we're estranged with them, we get 0 joint actions. Those joint actions, there are various joint actions they can do, all of them pretty good. So let's see what we can do. It is good to note that these allies can only act in their region, except for Canada, who can affect Eurozone or Central or South America. So Canada can actually interact with several different regions on the board: Eurozone, Central America, and South America. So that's good to keep in mind. So the first thing we do, starting with Canada, is going to be perform a number of joint actions determined by your relationship with them. So if we have very close relationship with, which we do with Canada, obviously, then we have 2 possible joint actions. The joint actions we can do is intel, which would be to get terror groups up into this intel track. Would help us start to take care of some of those terror groups, which we have not really done a whole lot of yet, but probably should in the future. We could raid, which is if we have these terror groups up in the intel track. If anybody's in targeting, we can raid those people. Or those terror groups, I should say. But obviously we don't have any in there. I doubt we're going to get them in there this turn, so we will not be able to raid. Another one is to stabilize the region, which would be increase stability by 1 box. That is very important. One of the few ways that we can actually get stability up there. So usually we're going to take that if we can. Probably will here as well. Reinforce, if the ally is involved in a war, we can add strength to their side. We can de-escalate if they have a conflict track. We can decrease that status. We can also request UN humanitarian aid in any region, which is probably what we're also going to do here. And we can also remove stress if there is stress on that ally. We can remove up to 2 tension counters. So, I think things to do here are probably going to be to reinforce and request UN humanitarian aid in one of the places where we are dangerously close to getting to a major crisis. So first thing I think we're going to do is going to be to attempt to stabilize the region, which is roll a d10, -1 DRM if the regional crises is at 0. I don't believe that is true for any of the places Canada can get to. Nope. So where was I? Oh yeah, so on a 1 through 4, increase stability by 1 box. I had one game before where I was just hitting those rolls left and right. Let's see if we can actually do that here. The first thing is we got to figure out which region we want to stabilize. Let's see here. I think the goal might be Central America here. Their stability is currently the lowest. So yeah, let's go ahead and try to stabilize Central America. So we're going to roll a d10. On a 1 through 4, we're going to increase that stability. So let's see what we got. That's a 4. That is a success. So we are going to increase that stability. That's perfect. Exactly what we wanted. That was the first joint action. We do have a second one since we are very close with Canada. So we can request humanitarian aid in any region up to 1 max. So we make a UN aid roll for any one region in the map. Roll a d10. 1 through 8, we get to decrease the regional crisis in that chosen region by 1 box. I think, so I believe, what do we got? Yeah, Africa and Eastern Europe are currently at 3. Let's start with Eastern Europe. Let's try that. So we are going to try to roll a 1 through 8. And we got a 2. That is perfect. So that was successful. So regional crises in Eastern Europe does go down by 1. So perfect. Those were very good joint actions with Canada. So the next thing that we do when finished with joint actions is flip over all tension counters on Canada to reveal their values. There are currently no tension counters on Canada, fortunately. So then we're going to make a unilateral action die roll. They have a table in the back of this chart here, or in back of this booklet. That is their unilateral action table, and we got to apply the DRMs and see what Canada ends up doing. So our DRMs are going to be -1 if no tension counters on Canada. That is true, so we're going to start with a -1. +1 per tension value on Canada. They didn't have any tensions. +1 if Russian influence is in Eurozone. I believe there is one in Eurozone. That is correct. So we are at a net of 0 DRMs. +1 per level 3 to 4 terror group in continental United States. There aren't any. +1 if Russia-NATO conflict track is greater than 1 on the conflict track. Russia-NATO's conflict track is 1, so we are going to end up with a +1 DRM in this roll. And let's see what Canada does. Rolling that die, we've got an 8. +1 is going to be 9. So that is going to be a joint anti-terror campaign with U.S. Reduce 1 level 1, 2, or 3 terror group in continental United States, Central America, or South America by 1 level. So that's not bad. There are no terror groups in the continental United States or South America, so we are going to target Central America here. So it says level 1, 2, or 3 terror group in Central America. We get to reduce it by 1 level. So we could either just obliterate this terror group, or we could lower this terror group by 1 level. I think we're going to lower this one by 1. I think that would be fine. So we're going to make that level 2 terror group a level 1 terror group. So we got 2 little baby terror groups in the area. A little better than that size 2 one. Now, we are going to remove all of Canada's flipped tension counters and replace with half the number of counters rounded down. They didn't have any, so we do not need to do that right now. Now we are going to activate the Gulf States / Saudi Arabia using the same procedure described in 1. So, again, we do not have very close relationships with Saudi Arabia / Gulf States, so we will only get 1 joint action with them. I think stabilize the region's probably the way to go, although humanitarian aid to Africa does sound tempting. There's so few chances to raise stability I think we're going to stick with that. So let's try to stabilize the Middle East. Let's roll for that. We need a 1 through 4. Let's see what we get. That is a 5. So close. Yeah, that's too bad. Probably should have stabilized the region. But I think it's too important to try to... Sorry, sent humanitarian aid to Africa. But I think it's too important to try to stabilize, so that's what we did. All right. There are no tension counters in the Gulf states. So let us make a unilateral action roll for the Gulf states / Saudi Arabia. DRMs, -1 if no tension counters are on them, which is true. Starting with a -1, +1 per tension value on them. There aren't any. +1/2 rounded down the current status value of Gulf states / Saudi Arabia / Iran conflict track. Conflict track is currently at 2, so we are going to add half of that rounded down, which would be 1. So we are currently at a net of 0 DRMs, and then +2 if the Gulf states / Saudi Arabia is at war. They are not. So we are going to roll a d10 with no DRMs and see what we get. It's going to be a 5. Let's see. Increase oil production. Add economy improving counter on US, Eurozone, and China. Add worsening economy counter to Russia. Take that, Russia. So the worsening economy on Russia is going to just obliterate that increasing economy token. So we're going to take that. We're going to put that onto China. We're also going to put one on Eurozone, if I remember correctly. Let's see, Eurozone and China and US. Yes, and then we add one to ourselves. Not the worst. I don't like it going on China also, but take what you can get. So that is their unilateral action. We would remove tension counters and add half of them if they had any, but they don't. So next thing we do after the Canada and Gulf states / Saudi Arabia activations, go to the rogue activation table at the right to determine whether one game-created rogue state or Iran or North Korea acts immediately. We do have a game-created rogue state over in Central South Asia. So let's see here. Where was I? Oh yeah. Note if there are no game-created rogue state counters on the map, always use the 6+ result on the rogue activation table. Okay, so rogue activation. Roll a d10. If no rogue states on the map, implement 6+. There is a rogue state on the map, so we can just roll a die, see what we get. Got a 4. So the highest level game-created rogue state acts. Choose randomly if more than one of the same level. Use the rogue state activation process on the Ally Rogues Group C table. So we will go look at the Group C table and roll on that. DRMs, -2 if the rogue state has a -1 AP counter. They don't. Let's see. Oh, actually, I think... Let me see. This level, if one or more, use the rogue state's action process. Oh, okay, I need to start earlier, sorry. Okay. Perform the process below for each rogue state counter on the map. So we will do this process for this rogue state right here. If level 1 or 2 rogue state is at war, do only A. If level 3 or 4 rogue state is at war, do A and B. If rogue state any level is not at war, do only B. So we will do only A. They are at war and they are level 1. And that is going to be roll a d10 and see what we get. It's going to be a 7. So 7 is going to be +1 strength. Also, if the current type is combined air-ground and rogue state is net winning, roll d10 on a 1 through 5, change conflicts type to guerrilla war. So it is currently at a stalemate, so they are not winning. That is correct. So we're going to plus their strength up to 9. Let's see. So that's no good. And we are going to roll to see if they turn into a guerrilla war. So it is a stalemate, so that technically means they are not winning. It's a 10. On a 1 through 5, change conflict type to guerrilla war. So it is not a 1 through 5, so it does not change to guerrilla war. That's good. We did not want that to be guerrilla war. Basically, guerrilla war is instead of using just this top row, you also will start using these, so it's harder to win. So, like, if it goes towards the US's favor and it's not a guerrilla war, it'll just go along this track. If it was a guerrilla war, you have to go here, then here, then here, then here. So it just takes a lot more stuff. Don't really want that. Screw that. Okay. So once that is done, now we have to check unstable states. We have to roll a D10 once for each unstable state counter in Central, South Asia, and Asia Pacific. So Central, South Asia, there is an unstable state counter there. You know what, let's go ahead and copy some. There we go. Alright, so there's an unstable state counter right there. Let's roll to see what happens. Rolling for this unstable state. Let's roll that one also. So 7. Keep unstable state on the map. Okay. So that's the only unstable state there. Asia Pacific does not have any unstable states. So that's the only one to roll for. Cool. Alright, and that would conclude the ally and rogue states action. Now there is a little thing over here, so we do the POTUS / cabinet focuses, which will mean we will roll for our focuses, and we will see if we get any benefits from those. So let's go ahead and copy that. Alright, so we're going to start with the highest POTUS cabinet focus, which is going to be public press relations. We have to roll a 1 in order to get the benefit. Let's see if we get it. It is a 6, far from a 1. We did not get that. Homeland Security, we need to roll 1 through 2. Oh, I thought we had a 2. So nothing there either. For number 4, improve relations with Congress, I would like to hit this. We need a 1 through 3, so let's see what we get. Yay! Alright, so we do get a 3. Improve relationship with Congress by 1 box. So we up our relationship with Congress. That's nice. It was getting kind of low. I did not like that. Moving on to the economy. Again, we need a 1 through 3 for this one. We do get the 3. So, place improving economy marker on the U.S. state of economy track. Not bad. So, since we already have an improving counter on it, we are just going to move it up. Wonderful. Number 2 now. So we need, we're looking at cabinet effectiveness. We need a 1 through 4. We got it. Perfect. So we are gonna, the benefit for that is roll a d6, 1 through 3, place an improving marker on the cabinet effectiveness track. 4 or higher, we get 3 more APs to work with. Neither one is bad. So we got 3, so we are going to place an improving economy marker. We already have one, or not economy, but cabinet effectiveness. Already have one, so we are just going to up our cabinet effectiveness. That is going to be nice. It'll make it easier to roll for our lingering domestic issues. And yeah, so higher cabinet effectiveness is always good. And now, number 1, address domestic crisis. We need a 1 through 5. And we got a 1. So -1 to domestic crises, if already 0, plus 2 presidential APs, action points. So we do have a 0 domestic crisis right now, so we get 2 more action points. So we're up to 17. Wonderful. All right, and that concludes our cabinet focus. So now we're going to move it down here. There's several things we have to do here. First thing is -1 box to media relationship. So that's just representing how relationships with the media decline over time. Then we get 2 domestic actions, and then we do a legislative segment. So we got 2 domestic actions. First thing I think we need to do is, so the biggest things, honestly, are this being freaking low and relationships with Congress being super low. So I think those will probably be our focus here with our 2 actions. I would love to see cooperation increase. Let's see if we can do that. Let me find my domestic master actions chart. We could also use presidential domestic actions if we wanted. I don't think we need to right now, though. I think we are going to encourage bipartisanship in Congress because that is my main concern currently on the domestic side. Let's see what we got. This is limited to one successful result per activation segment. So if we do not pass it, it would be possible to try again if we wanted. This will cost 1 action and 1 AP, so we're going to have to spend an AP. And roll a die. We got a -1 DRM if you have the moderate influence POTUS attribute. We do not. We have media relations and efficient, so we do not get any DRMs. We need a 2 or less gross. Let's see what we can do. It's a 5. Let's go ahead and re-roll that. This is for maximum chances. It's a 6. That's not good, actually, because that is a negative. So your efforts cause problems with your party leadership. -1 to party relations. Boo. Okay. So our party liked us less because of that attempt. Well, that's sad. Honestly, I think we try again. We have a legislative action or legislative segment. If we do not get this up, we do not get to put any bills in, which might not be bad because we have split control of Congress, so it's actually going to be 50-50 whether or not we can even introduce a bill into Congress. You know what? I'm going to say let's go for it. It's going to cost our second action and an AP. Let's roll. We need a 2 or less. And we got it. Perfect. Don't even have to reroll. Alright, so move bipartisan cooperation counter, right 1 box on the bipartisan cooperation track. That concludes our 2 domestic actions. And now we will go to the legislative segment. There's quite a bit to this, so I usually look on the chart here. There we go. Perform legislative segment. So since this is the first time the legislative segment is activating, we skip a lot of stuff because we don't have any pending bills. So if no pending bills, skip the step. If no pending bills, skip the step. Let's see, to attempt to pass a bill, so we don't have any bills to attempt to pass, so we're going to skip that step. Sign or veto bills. If no bills are passed, skip the step. Add legislative friends or opponents. That happens if you sign a landmark bill. We didn't sign anything, so we'll skip that step. How the sausage is made. Roll 1d6 and refer to the Congressional Maneuvering and Drama Table, d6, in the Domestic Charts booklet. Apply result. Make an additional roll if bipartisan cooperation is currently in the leftmost box. So fortunately, we were able to raise that, so we will not have to make that additional roll. So let me get my domestic charts. Alright, got my domestic chart booklet. We're going to open that to, what did it say, D3, D6. Congressional Maneuvering and Drama Table. Alright, what are our DRMs for this? Alright, so -1 if bipartisan cooperation is the rightmost box, it's not. +1 if bipartisan cooperation is in either of the 2 leftmost boxes. That is unfortunate. So we got a +1 currently. -1 if relationship with Congress is 7 or greater, it's not. +2 if relations with Congress is 3 or less, it's not. -1 if public approval is greater than 60%. I don't believe it is. Where are we at? We're at 46 public approval. +2 if public approval is less than 30%, it's not. -1 if friends outnumber opponents in Congress, it does. So that will negate the +1 that we already had, so we're at a net of 0. +1 if opponents outnumber friends, it doesn't. +2 if this is the second roll of the step due to bipartisan cooperation being in the leftmost box, it's not. So we are going to roll a, what was it, a D6 I think it was. So roll a D6, no DRMs, Let's see what we get. 2. If I remember, that's not so bad. Let's see here. Usually these are kind of bad unless you roll really low. So new friends, better relations, turncoats, and scoundrels is what we rolled. So this is what happens is going to be determined by our relationship with Congress is 5 for us, so that's not that great. So if relationship with Congress is 4 to 5, improve it by 1 box. Well, that's good, but I think we draw an enemy also. But draw, add 1 random opponent in Congress, so that's unfortunate. Who do we get? We have a moderate, Samuel Black. He's got media chops, unfortunately, so now we are currently at more media savvy than our friends, so that's not going to be good. I think we're going to lose public approval then. We do still have the advantage with congressional power, though, so that's good. Another moderate, which doesn't actually matter here. We have 3 radicals still. And I'm probably going to want to get rid of him anyway because of that media savviness, which will get rid of another moderate, so that's unfortunate also. But, perfect. Okay, so that is the roll on the chart. We did go up with relationships with Congress, but we did get an opponent, which is unfortunate. Now introduce new bills. Remove all bills currently in the cannot be passed box and place them in the unused box. You may now voluntarily remove any of yours, not opponent's bills, currently in any box of the pending bill section. Because you can never have more than 5 in the pending section, you'll sometimes want to remove a bill or 2 that are lower priority to make room for higher priority bills. Okay. The number in the current box in the bipartisan cooperation section is the number of bills that are now introduced, which is 1. If you control both houses of Congress, you choose which bills to introduce. We don't. If your opponents control both houses, they don't. If control is split, roll a d6 to see who gets to choose the first bill to introduce. Even you, odds opponents, then alternate between parties until you've made the indicated number of attempts. So it's only going to be one party is going to be able to introduce a bill because we only have 1 bill to introduce based on bipartisan cooperation. So let's see who gets it. So even me, odd opponent. Odd opponent. Fuck. So I believe they are going to just introduce a bill in the highest of public legislative priorities, which is going to be tax reform. So they're going to introduce a tax reform bill, which is right here. And I believe we pop it right there. Place the bills you or your opponents have introduced in the 0 box of the pending bills track on the board. If there's a split control in Congress, place the bill in the -1 box. Let's see what it is. Oh, okay. Place the bill if on the board if there's split control. Oh, okay. Place the bill on the -1 box if introduced by a party controlling both houses. Place it on the +1 box if introduced by a party that controls neither house. So it's going to go in 0 since we have split control. Determine media result. So total, then compare the media ratings of all friends and opponents. So I believe it is going to be 2 versus 1. Yes. With our new opponent there. Then move public approval that number of boxes with a max of 3 boxes in your favor if friend's net is higher, and against if your opponent's net is higher. Tie equals no change. If the result is the max of plus or minus 3 boxes for or against the player, also adjust media relationship by 1 box higher for +3 or lower for -3. So we are going to go down 1 in public approval based on our new opponent, who is good with the media apparently. So we're going to go down 1. Could have been worse. Scandal investigation. Skip if there are no scandals. There's currently not any scandals. Adjust by partisan cooperation. Examine all friends' opponents. If there are more moderates than radicals, move it to the right. If there are more radicals than moderates, move cooperation left 1 box. Otherwise, no change. So we have 3 radicals versus 1 moderate. So cooperation is going to go back in the dump. Legislative momentum. Perform 1 immediate free action of any type of each of yours, not opponent's bills that were passed and signed during this activation step. No, nothing was done. Nothing was signed, so we skip that. And that is it for the legislative phase. So now we are going to draw a crisis chip. See what we got. This is going to draw a crisis card. I think this is our first crisis card of the game. Technological breakthrough. Roll a d10. Let's roll that d10. 1. That's going to be Russia develops new high-tech military technology. Increase one of that country's strategic capabilities by 2 boxes. Goddamn. Choose the area in which they trail the U.S. by the greatest deficit. Decide randomly between tracks with equal deficit. Increase that country's relative strength by 1 box on one of their conflict tracks. Choose randomly. Well, that's not good. So where does Russia trail the most to the U.S.? Looks like it is equal in several spots. They trail us 1 here, here, not there, here, here, and that's it. So this, and this are where they trail us. So I'll roll a d10. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh wait, no. Oh, I'm sorry. So they trail us by 1 here, here, and here. So it's only 3 boxes that they trail us by 1. Okay. That's, yeah, okay. Those jerks. Okay. So we'll roll a d6, and it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2. So ground forces, training, attack. 1, 2. So they go up 2 there. Russia's kicking ass over here in the strategic capabilities. So increase, okay, one of that country's strategic capability tracks by 2 boxes. Choose the area in which they trail the U.S. by the greatest deficit. Decide randomly between tracks with an equal deficit. Increase the country's relative strength by 1 box. One of their conflict tracks. Choose randomly. I believe they have 2 conflict tracks. Russia, NATO, Russia, Ukraine. So odd, even. Odd. So they go up in their relative strength. Change relative strength by 1 box on their conflict track. Choose randomly. Okay. So now, this little symbol here says this is going to go back into the reshuffle area. So a lot of times it just gets removed from the game. But this has the possibility of getting reshuffled back into the crisis deck at the end of the turn. Alright, so that was that. Now we're going to do Focused National Intelligence. We have 2 because of this, or because we were equal to them before. We're going to have to go back up on that eventually. Hopefully we can put a DARPA counter on there. So let's see here. Drone Crisis Chit. Perform Focused National Intelligence. If you have the exceptional White House resource card, we don't. So we'll move on. Roll on the Focus National Intel collection table for each region that has an FNI counter to determine the effects of your focused intel in that region. You may then move the counters into a new world region if you wish. Alright, so currently we have the counter in 2 spots. So we are going to roll a d10 for those 2 regions. Let's see. Chicken Barf asks, this is that game created by that child molester, right? I do believe that is correct. I believe he went to jail for something along those lines. I'm not sure what the entire story is, but I believe you are correct. So rolling, I think he's the G in GMT actually. Gene, I think his name is. I'm not entirely sure. But yes, I try to separate the art from the artist. This game is fun. Do not agree with what he has done in the past. So what did we get? We got a 3 DRMs, -1 if strategic recon intel gathering strategic capability is higher than both Russia's and China's. I don't believe that's true anymore. Strategic recon gathering. Oh no, it is. Okay, so we do get a -1 there. So -1 for that. -1 if cyber warfare strategic capability is higher than both Russia and China's. That's no longer true. So we're still. Whoop. So we're still at the -1, +1. God damn it. There we go. There we go. Okay, +1 if either Russia or China has an influence counter in the region and their cyber strategic capability is greater than that of the U.S. They do have an influence counter there, and Russia's cyber capabilities is greater than ours, so that is going to be a +1, which is going to negate the -1 we had, so it is going to be a DRM of 0, so we got a 3. So what we get. Effects on terrorism. Move a level 3, 2, 1 in that priority terror group into the locating box. Then move a different 3, 2, 1 in that priority terror group into the region into the gathering box. So we have a 2 here, so we're going to put that into locating. Then we've got another 2 and put that into gathering. Let's see here. Effects on war. We don't have a war in that region. If there's a civil war in that region, there is. So if there's a civil war in the region, you may choose to share intel with the UN in order to get them to intervene. Make an immediate broker peace talks roll in the UN for the chosen civil war with an overall DRM of -2. Chart on WM4 in the World Charts booklet. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let me find the World Charts booklet in my big stack of booklets here. Alright, W4. So we are rolling on the Civil War Resolution Broker Peace chart with a -2 DRM. There are some other DRMs. If it's a UN action, we get -1. It's not. -2 ceasefire column only. It's not a ceasefire. +1 if regional stability is less than 5. It is less than 5. So that's going to be a +1. So we had a -2 already, so +1 is going to be a -1 currently. +1 if there is an Iranian influence counter beneath the civil war. There is not. So we are going to roll a D10 -1. So 5 -1 is going to be 4. Ceasefire. Replace the civil war counter with civil war ceasefire. Decrease regional crises by 1 box. So that's not bad. So we are going to put that civil war back, put a civil war ceasefire instead, and we are going to subtract a regional crisis from the area. And I think that is it for that one. So now we're going to move to Central South Asia. Let's go ahead and roll a D10 here. So I think I've already forgot what the DRMs are. Strategic recon, gathering strategic capability is higher than both Russia's. That is true, so we got a -1 there. Cyber warfare is not better than both of them, so still a -1. And they do have a Russia influence counter, and Russia's cyber strategic capability is greater than us, so that's going to be a +1. So that negates the -1 we had, so we are going to roll a D10 with 0 DRMs. It's going to be a 7. Effects on terrorism. Move a level 3, 2, or 1 in that priority terror group to the locating box. So we're going to move this 2 to the locating box. Not bad. Could have been better, but not terrible. I believe that is it then. Yes. Could have used this because that could have... We do have a war in that region, so we could have added strength on our side for that, so that's unfortunate. But yeah, like I said, not bad. Alright. That is it for the Focus National Intelligence. Now we get 4 of any diplomatic and or military actions. Alright, so... I'm going to keep track of our actions for that. So we have 4 of any diplomatic and or military. So let's see, I think things we are going to try to do is get the regional crisis in Africa down slightly. I would like to move our heavy army from here into Central South Asia. That will give us some extra firepower in the war. The war is going to come up in Phase 2. I think we still have actions before then. We do, so we might want to start moving that. It takes 2 actual actions to move the heavy ones. And then, if we can, I would like to remove some Chinese or Russian influence. So I think we want to lower here, possibly remove Russian influence from here. Or a Chinese influence from here. Maybe a Chinese influence from here would be better, actually. And then maybe add a DARPA counter. All right, so let me pull out my diplomatic master actions. I think we're going to start with crisis relief. And I think we are going to start in Africa. So, this takes one action. Choose a region, roll a d10. DRMs minus the diplomatic rating of your Secretary of State. Let me remember what that is. I think it's a 2. Yeah, we have an experienced Kim Richards with a 2 diplomatic rating. So we're going to have a -2. -1 if regional stability is 6 or higher. It is not. Regional stability is at 4, so we're going to just get a d10 -2. That is a 9. That's going to be no effect. We're going to re-roll that. Two -2 is going to be 0. Perfect. Decrease regional crisis in the region by 2 boxes. Okay, that was a good re-roll. So we did that. That is one of our actions. Another action. There's too much stuff I want to do. Let's see. How many more actions do we get before the roll actually, or the war actually starts going? Any 3 actions, and then that's going to be it. Okay, so we can do the DARPA counter pretty much any time. So we are going to use a military action to move or deploy U.S. military forces. Move non-carrier forces, select 1 U.S. air or ground unit, or a total of 2 intel advisors, and or special ops units. You may not select an in-transit heavy armor that was already moved to this segment. Yeah, so since this is that segment, we are going to move this heavy armor. It's not currently in transit, so selected units may move between continental United States, a U.S. forces box in any region, and an ally box in any region. If an in-transit heavy armor is selected, flip it to its combat side without moving it. Otherwise, flip it to in-transit side after it is moved. So we are going to move this over to Central South Asia, and let's see here. Let's go ahead and move this on top of there, and we have to flip it to its in-transit side. So if the war happens and it's in transit, we would not get any power from it. Hopefully we will be able to flip that over before the war starts and get it to be active. So that was a action right there. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and do a diplomatic action over here and do that crisis relief again. If we're lucky, we can lower this by 2 and then try to remove a Russian influence. That would be best case scenario. So DRMs again for this. -2 for a diplomatic rating in our Secretary of State. -1 if regional stability is 6 or higher. It is not. It is at 4. So same deal. We're going to roll a d10 -2. Oh, shit, nice. So, best case scenario, sweet. So that is 1 -2, so 1 or less decrease regional crisis in the region by 2 boxes. That is perfect. All right, so we got it down to 0. So now, since it is at 0 and we have a regional alignment of 6, we can attempt to remove a Russian influence from the region, and that is exactly what we're going to do. So we are going to roll a d10, no DRMs. We need a 1 through 6. Let's see if we get it. That is a 5. That is perfect. We remove that Russian influence. That was ideal. We could have removed this Chinese influence. That would have been alright too, but 3 Russian influence over in Eastern Europe really scares me. And we forgot to move that down, but that would be the brunt of our actions. So that was all 4 of our actions. we now move to a draw a crisis chit. Let's see what we get. So we are going to draw a crisis card. Put that right there. And let's see what crisis card we get. We are the world. If both Russia and China posture is 1, which fortunately, earlier we were able to lower Russian posture to 1, so Russia and Chinese posture is at 1. So if Russia and Chinese posture is 1 and you are willing to spend 2 APs, Russia, China, and the US join to lead a massive world effort to eradicate childhood diseases in Africa. I don't think I can say no to that. I will spend the 2 APs. Place a trending pro-US counter in Africa and a UN Goodwill counter in the earned UN Goodwill box. Nice. So let's flip this here. Trending pro-US in Africa, and then we're also going to get a UN Goodwill counter. Those come in handy later on. Place a Russian influence and Chinese influence in Africa. That's not as good, but I'll go with it. -2 crisis in regional crisis in Africa. Not as good value there. Russia influence. Let's see. Put it up here. And Chinese influence. -2 crises in Africa down to 0. That's nice. Remove 2 tension counters each from Russia, China, Canada, and NATO. Nice. So 1, 2 from China. 1. God damn it. There we go. 1, 2 from Russia. Are there any on NATO? There are. So 2 from NATO. And NATO. Place a trending pro-US counter on Russia and China's US relations. Nice. So we're going to remove that one, and we're going to remove that one. Perfect. If either Russia or China posture is greater than 1, or you are unwilling or unable to spend 2 APs, ignore the above and instead +1 regional crisis in Africa as children assumingly go hungry. Fortunately, we were able to prevent that, so that was not a bad card. We did add some influence, unfortunately, but still not shabby. So this does get discarded, so we can just make a little discard pile down here. We'll put that right there. All right. Now that chit did have a plus sign, so we are going to draw another chit. Let's see what we get. Draw 2 crisis cards. Congress clashes over renewable energy policy. Televised debates spotlight congressional rising stars and attack your energy policies. Draw and add 1 political opponent to Congress. Goddamn. Not good. Now we are outnumbered. Oh, and that is a bad one. Jesus. Okay. Yeah. Okay, he was moderate on both sides. So I'm not liking that. That's not good. Draw and add 1 political opponent to Congress. -1 public approval. Approval goes down. Move the energy independence public priority counter to the #1 box on the public legislative priorities track. Energy independence, I don't think is currently on there. Nope, so we're going to look for it and we're going to add it. Let's see here. Energy independence is going to be the #1 priority, which means the last place priority is removed. These all get moved down. This goes into the #1 spot, energy independence. To the #1 box. Now we have a media slant, which means we have to look at our relations with the media, and media slant is +1 public opinion. So the way the media spins this issue is in our favor, and we do get a public approval on that. This event will then get discarded. So put that in the discard pile. So the second crisis card for this chit is going to be economic crisis in China. Banks over leveraged, so stock and asset values plummet. Liquidity crisis. Decrease China's state of economy track by 1 box. Place a -1 AP counter on China. Place a worsening economy counter on the U.S. state of economy track. So decrease China's state of economy track by 1 box. I'll take that. Let's see. Although when China's thing comes up, if they are still at 4, then their posture may go to 2. So we may have a summit with China if we can. And we may try to give them a leg up on economy. So we'll see. -1 AP counter on China. That's good. Flip that over. Pop that right over here. Let's see. Place a worsening economy counter on the U.S. state of economy track. And we will pop that right over there. Alright, I think that is about it. And this is a cascading event, so it's going to go back into the 2 pile right up here. Perfect. And that is the 2 cards we drew for that chit. It does have a plus sign, so we are going to draw another one. This one's going to be a +1 random regional crisis. Let me double check what exactly this does. I think we just roll for a random region and raise its crisis level. But let me double check. Roll a d10 to determine which region has the crisis, as marked above in the region on the world map. Once the region is identified, move the regional crisis level at the bottom of the region 1 box to the right. If the move increases regional crisis level to major crisis, refer to the regional major crisis table on the world charts booklet. Total any applicable DRMs and roll a d10 to find and apply the result. So yeah, we're just going to roll a d10, raise our crisis level by 1. Oops. 2, which is going to be Eastern Europe, I believe. Yes, so they go up a regional crisis. I'm glad we were able to remove an influence when we could. And I think that's it. So it does have a plus sign, but there are no more boxes on those crisis chits. So we are going to move to any 3 actions. All right. So we have any 3 actions. I think one of them is going to be a military action to move our heavy army to its not in transit side. So we have 2 any actions left. I think one of them is, like I said, going to be for diplomatic actions. We can do a summit with China in this one. That might be what we end up doing. I think I want to currently remove an influence from somewhere. That would have been a good one, but I think we're going to... Can't do it here. That's unfortunate. We got to get there. You know what we could do? We could try to raise our relations with Africa, then we could try to get rid of a Chinese influence there. I think that might be the ticket. So we have 2 actions. Let's see, presidential action. We could do a UN speech to create goodwill. May only be used once per activation segment. So we would roll a d10. On a 1 through 7, we would add a UN goodwill counter or place a trending pro-US counter on the regional alignment track in any one world region. So what we could do, if we hit that, we could raise it to 6. Since they are at 0 crises, we could then, with our last action, try to remove a Chinese influence. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's see, we have 3 domestic actions coming up. I do want to address that. Oh, you know, we may also want to discredit or dissuade congressional opponents. That is a domestic action, so we can use that in our 3 domestic actions over here. So we might do that. So yeah, okay. So let's do a UN speech to create goodwill. -1 if you have the orator attribute. I don't believe we do. What was it we have again? Media savvy and efficient. That's right. So roll d10. No DRMs. 1 through 7, we are going to have a success. That is a 6, so that is a success. Add a UN goodwill counter or place a trending pro-US counter on the region alignment track in any one world region. We will do that with Africa. So it is now a 6. Since it's a 6, we can attempt to remove Chinese influence if regional crises are at 0. They are, and we will attempt to do that. Alright, and I believe that is a 1 through 6 is what we're looking for. No DRMs. It's going to be our last action. One through 6. That's a 10. We're gonna re-roll that. 1 through 6. That's a 3. That's more likely. So we do remove Chinese influence. I've been forgetting to count how much influence we got. Let's check that out. So for Russia, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Russia has 6 influence. China has, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 influence. We've been keeping their influence down. That's not bad. I guess they haven't acted yet, though, so they'll spread influence once that happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, perfect. All right, and that will be all of our actions. Army Lover says, this is trippy and dope. I assume you're talking about the music I got in the background. That is the soundtrack for Earthbound, and it is very trippy and very dope. I completely agree. If you have not played that game, it is a masterpiece. The soundtrack is phenomenal. My favorite video game soundtrack to one of my favorite video games. The game itself is also very trippy. So it's a good combination. The music accompanies the game very well, both of them being trippy. If you got any questions about the game, let me know. I've been... It's a very long solo game. It takes about 10-ish hours to complete, so I will be doing this over the course of several different streams. Definitely not going to be completing it tonight by any means. So we are on the first year of our presidency, and we have so far gotten to here in our turn. So our first turn, not even halfway over yet. It will take a while, as is tradition. So where are we at here? We just used our 3 any actions. Worked out pretty well, actually. Now we are going to see whether or not terror or chaos reigns. So we are going to roll a d10 to see if terror or chaos affect the world. It is a 1, so terror. Terror is the winner. Terror is going to affect the world. I forget what exactly. There's some sort of chart we gotta roll on. Let's check it out. Right over here. Resolve terror, acts, or chaos. Roll a d10 on the results of 1 through 5. Resolve a terror acts procedure. That is what we rolled. So we are going to do the terror acts procedure. Increase the regional crisis in any region containing a rogue state counter by 1 box. So that is going to be Central South Asia. There's a rogue state there. Their crisis level goes up, which is dangerously close to major crisis. We don't want that to happen. Consolidation of networks. In each region where there is at least 2 level 1 terror groups, remove 1 set of them and replace them with a level 2 terror group. So basically they're going to combine and up their terror level. If the 2 terror groups are on the intel track of the region, put a level 2 terror group on the lower box of the 2. And then we're going to make a terror axe roll. Alright, so any region with at least 2 level 1 groups, they're going to combine into a level 2 group. Eastern Europe only has 1 level 1 group, so that's fine. Central America, we did lower a level 2 group to a level 1 group. They're going to combine and reform that level 2 group. So we are going to pop them back into their level 2 box and there is now a level 2 terror group over in Central America. South America has only one level 1 terror group. Middle East has a level 2 and a level 1, so they do not combine. Africa, on the other hand, they do have 2 level 1 groups. Whoops. So we are going to, god damn it. So we are going to combine those into a level 2 group. So we now have 2 level 2 terror groups in Africa. We should probably do something about that eventually. Central South Asia only has 1 terror group, and it's at level 1. I forgot to look at the boxes. So they're both level 2 in the tracking box. So Middle East still does not combine. The tracking box terror group is level 2, so that does not combine. And Asia Pacific has a 2 and a 1, so they do not combine. Alright, so we're good with that. Make a Terror Axe roll on the Terror Axe table below. DRMs, dice roll modifiers. We got a +3 max, so +1 per level 3 or 4 terror group on the board. I don't think we have any 3 or 4 terror groups, fortunately. I think the highest is 2. Yeah, highest terror level group is 2, so we do not have a +1 or any pluses. So it's going to be a D10, no DRMs. Let's see what we get. 9. Fuck. We got 8+. Surprise terror planning event. Make a homeland security check. So our homeland security is at 6, so we need a 6 or lower. Fingers crossed. We did make it, so we passed. So we got a 3. We passed on our homeland security check. So randomly draw 1 new terrorism event card from the unused pile. Don't look at it, and add it to the reshuffle pile. Well, that's not the best, but it could have been worse. So give it a quick shuffle. And this will go into the reshuffle pile. So at the end of the turn, this reshuffle pile, we're going to randomly discard half of them and remove them from the game, and the other half is going to get shuffled back into the deck, possibly to rear its ugly head later on. Alright, so Terror reigns supreme, and now we are going to move to another Ally Rogue Groups Act. So we're going to move it up here. We are going to pull out another random ally group, ally/rogues group, and it is going to be Group B. So let me dig through my pile of books, find the ally and rogue states booklet. I have now found it. And what are we looking for? B. Were we supposed to do an economy thing at some point? I don't think so. No. Oh, state of economy happens at the end of this phase. Okay. So we are still only close allies with India and Saudi Arabia, Gulf states. Everybody else we are very close with. B. Group B is going to be UK, Japan, and North Korea. So we are very close with both UK and Japan. So that's good. So again, we are going to get joint actions with our allies. We are going to start with the UK. These allies act only in their region except for the UK, who can affect the Eurozone or Eastern Europe. So UK can affect both these regions over here. We have 2 joint actions. I think the first one is going to be stability. So these ally actions, these joint actions, are one of the few times where we can actually up stability in a region. We can't actually do that with any of our own actions, for the most part. So this is going to be an opportunity to raise stability. We can do, since we're with the doing UK right now, we can do that either in Eurozone or Eastern Europe. I kind of want to up the stability in Eastern Europe. It is currently down. So let's go ahead and up that. So we are going to roll a D10, and we are going to... Ah, crap. So we would have gotten a -1 DRM if the crisis level was at 0. It's not. It upped. I can't remember what happened to up it up, or to boost it up, but... so we're going to look for a 1 through 4. Let's roll D10. Hey, we got it. So we got a 3. So their stability is going to go up to 5. Perfect. That went well. Now I think we are going to request UN humanitarian aid in any region, and that region is going to be the Central South Asia region, so we don't have a major crisis over there. So we are going to make a UN aid roll for any region on the map, roll a d10, and we are looking for a 1 through 8. Fuck. That's a 9. We did not aid Central South Asia, unfortunately. We may get another chance there with Japan. But that would be all of our joint actions. So now we are going to roll on their unilateral action chart, and we are going to flip all of the tension counters on the UK. I think they only have 1. Yeah. So they have 1 tension. So let's go over to the unilateral action chart and see what the UK does. So usually if a place has more or high amounts of tension, they're going to act a little more aggressively for the most part. Let's see here. DRMs, -1 if no tension counters on the UK. That's not true. +1 per tension value on the UK, which is going to be 1, so we got a +1 so far. +1 if Russian influence is in the Eurozone. It is, so we got a +2. +1 per level, 3 or 4 terror group in the Eurozone. There aren't any. +1 if Russia-NATO conflict track is greater than 1. I believe it is. It's at 2. We might think about lowering that at some point. So yes, that's a +1, so we have a net of +3. +1 per current wars, including U.S. forces. That's another +1, so we got a net of +4. And that happens to be the max DRM, so we've got a D10 +4. Let's see what we got. 7 +4 is going to be 11. Military budget hikes, deployment, and training increase. Move the NATO-Russia relative strength 1 box in NATO's favor on conflict track, or increase pro-US side strength by +2 in 1 war. So we could move this a little towards NATO, which usually just pisses off Russia. Or we could increase our military strength by 2 in our war. I think that's the way we're gonna go. We're gonna do that right now. So, thank you UK. They are giving us extra strength in our war. And that is it for the UK. Now we're going to remove all their tension and replace it with half that tension rounded down. So we're going to remove that tension. Half rounded down would be 1/2, or which would be 0. So they do not get any more tension on them. Next, we're going to move to Japan. Japan is also a very close ally. We're going to do the same system, so we get 2 joint actions. I think we're going to use pretty much the same joint actions. They can only affect Asia and Pacific. So we are going to attempt to stabilize the region. So we need a 1 through 4 in order to stabilize the region. Let's see what we get. 3! Perfect. Wonderful. We have been lucky in our stabilization rolls. So stability of Asian Pacific goes up by 1. Next, we are going to attempt to request UN humanitarian aid again in Central and South Asia. For this, we need a 1 through 8. And 6. I thought I was going to roll on the 10, and I was going to be mad. So that is a success, so we get to decrease the regional crisis level in Central and South Asia by 1 box. Moves us away from the major crisis area there, which is nice. So now Japan is going to make a unilateral action, and then we get to go with North Korea. So they do not have any tensions in their box. That's nice. So -1 if no tension counters on Japan, which is correct. So we got a -1. +1/2 rounded down the current conflict status value on China-Japan conflict track, which is currently at 1. So 1/2 of 1 rounded down is going to be 0. So we have a D10 -1 for their action here. So D10 -1. Let's see what we got. God damn it. 10 -1 is going to be 9. So join U.S. sanctions. Replace 1 unilateral sanction with a multilateral counter. If none, roll again. So we do not actually have any unilateral sanctions anywhere. So we are going to roll again. 3. 3 minus 1 is going to be 2, which is dialogue. Decrease China-Japan conflict track by 1 box and remove 1 tension counter from each country. So that's going to do literally nothing. I believe China-Japan conflict track is at its lowest, and there is no tensions on Japan or China. So, boo. Could have used move 1 tension counter. That's kind of funny. If we had had a higher one, if we had gotten 8, we could have removed a Chinese influence, which I would have liked. But yeah, all right, that's it for Japan. They don't have any tension counters, so we don't change that at all. Next, we are going to see what fun activities North Korea is up to. So flip over any tension counters on North Korea. I think they've got 1. So we got 1 tension counter. No sanctions, so we sum up their values, which is +1. Roll a d10 and refer to North Korea's action chart, applying all listed DRMs, including the sum of tension counters. And then apply the results. So, North Korea's action table. DRMs -1 if there's no tension counters. There is a tension counter. So, plus the net tension and sanction value of North Korea, which is going to be 1. So, currently we got a +1 DRM. Plus 1/2 status value of North Korea, South Korea conflict track, which is 2. So half of that's going to be 1. So we got a net of +2 currently. +2 of current DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, versus the Republic of Korea. Relative strength favors the DPRK. It does not favor them. So there's not going to be +2. So we currently have, so it's +1, +2, so current net value of +2. So D10 +2. Goddamn. 9 +2. So it's going to be 11. So they are conducting missile tests. Place 1 tension counter on Japan and South Korea. Japan, South Korea. And it is in a blue section of the chart. So blue results, if the result falls within the blue area, add +1 to North Korea's nuke missile track and decrease APs by the number listed on the missile track. If DPRK is at war with the South Korea, +1 strength, they are not, so they just up in their missile value. So we are going to lose 1 AP. Not good. Then we're going to add tensions to North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and China. North Korea, South Korea, Japan, and China. All get tensions. And that is it for North Korea's action table. So, let's see here. Blah, 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 blah. Where was I? Okay, here we go. Apply results. Remove all tension counters on North Korea, which, from what I understand from the errata and like the message boards for this board game, that includes the tension counter that we just put on there. So we remove all tension counters and replace with 1/2 the number rounded up that you removed, place number side down. So we are going to remove these 2 tension counters and replace it with 1 tension counter. If we can actually get it in there. There we go. Replace with 1. Remove all sanctions counters on North Korea and replace with an identical number of that type of sanction. There aren't any currently. Place number side down. Then we check unstable states to finish this segment. So we are going to check unstable states in the Eurozone and Eastern Europe. Do we have any over there? There are no unstable states in Eastern Europe or the Eurozone, so we skip this step. All right. That was Rogue States. Now the UN is going to act. Let's see what we got for the UN. Alright, so every time the UN is eligible to act, it will automatically take the following 4 actions. So, First action the UN takes is going to be humanitarian aid. Attempt in the world region with the highest regional crisis value. Resolve ties randomly. This represents the world body acting together to alleviate suffering and avert crisis. To resolve a humanitarian aid attempt, roll a d10. If the result is 1 through 8, the action is successful. -1 to regional crises in that region. So who has the highest regional crisis level? Central South Asia is at 2. Is anyone else at 2? Central America is at 2. And I think those are the 2 highest. We've done a decent job keeping those down. So we've got a tie between Central America and Central South Asia. So we're going to do odd for Central America, even for Central South Asia to figure out which one gets the aid. It is odd, so that is going to be Central America. So we're going to roll a d10 and see if we get a 1 through 8. We did. So we are going to lower the crisis level in Central America by 1. 1 infrastructure aid. Attempt in the world region with the lowest current stability. This is another way to increase stability. Resolve ties randomly. To resolve an infrastructure aid attempt, roll a d10. If the result is 1 through 5, the action is successful, +1 to stability. So who has the lowest stability? So Eastern Europe is at 5. Central America is at 5. South America is at 5. Middle East is at 4. Is anyone else at 4? Africa's at 4. I think that's it. So tie between Middle East and Africa. So again, odd for Middle East, even for Africa. Let's see which one gets it. Odd, so Middle East. So we are going to attempt an infrastructure aid roll. We need a 1 through 5 for it to be successful. Nice. Again, we are killing it with those infrastructure rolls. So stability goes up to 5. And 1 youth empowerment attempt in the lowest stability region that contains a level 2 or 3 terror group. So the new lowest stability is at Africa since we raised the Middle East. They do have a level 2 group. So we are going to do a youth empowerment attempt in Africa. Let's see here. To resolve a youth empowerment attempt, roll a d10. If the result is 1 through 5, the action is successful. Decrease 1 level 2 or 3 terror group in the region by 1 level. Alright, so we are going to attempt a youth empowerment roll. 1 through 5. I thought I was going to go to the 5. So that is not successful. But we do move on to peace talks and a civil war. Choose 1 civil war or civil war ceasefire in the region with the lowest stability. There's a civil war in Africa, so we're going to target that one. Make a broker peace talks roll for that war on the appropriate column of the Civil War resolution. Broker peace chart below and apply that result. So here is the Civil War resolution broker peace chart. So we are targeting this civil war here. So we get DRMs. If UN action, -1 if UN action, which is correct. It is a UN action, so we're going to get a -1. -2 for ceasefire column only, so it's not a ceasefire. +1 if regional stability is less than 5. It is less than 5, so +1, -1, net of 0, so just roll a d10. 4. Ceasefire. Replace the Civil War counter with a Civil War ceasefire. Decrease regional crisis by 1 box. We're already at 0, so we are going to place this with a Civil War ceasefire. Nice. Alright, now that was the end of UN's straight-up actions, the ones they always take. Now we can use US-initiated UN actions. So after the automatic UN actions, you may choose to perform up to 2 US-initiated UN actions. If you spend 1 AP to get 1 action, and or UN Goodwill counter to get 1 action. If you perform 2 actions, they must be 2 different actions. You cannot perform the same action twice. This represents all of the ways in which the US partners with regional partners, NGOs, and yes, even UN organizations, subsidiaries, and programs. The Security Council, the WHO, the UN High Commission for Refugees, UNESCO, etc. to promote peace, health, and stability in the world. You can spend your UN actions or any action listed on the UN action chart, but you must pay for one with 1 AP and the other with a UN Goodwill counter. Fortunately, we do have a good UN Goodwill counter. These improve your chances of success as follows. So we get to choose I think we are going to use our UN goodwill and an AP in order to do this. So we are running low on APs, unfortunately. Hopefully we can get some more as the turn progresses. Let's see, what do we want? Sanctions. We could sanction North Korea. Youth empowerment, infrastructure aid. So again, like I've said before, stability increases can be rare, so that's probably going to be one thing we're going to want to do. Humanitarian aid. De-escalate, broker civil war peace, broker peace in major war. Arms control negotiations, decrease Iran, North Korea. Oh, we could... So, North Korea just went up on their missile track. We could try to do that. Decrease the Iranian or North Korean nuclear missile track. If successful, decrease the selected nation's nuclear missile track by 1 box and reverse any tensions listed in the new lower box. And reversing any tensions listed in the new lower box. Then roll a d10, again to determine whether Russia or China gain an influence counter in the region as a result. Alright, that's probably the way to go. I think we should probably do an infrastructure aid and an arms control negotiations. Yeah, let's go and do that. So we're going to spend an AP to do an infrastructure aid. DRMs. This is a U.S. requested action that you used a UN goodwill counter to initiate. Use the revealed value of the UN goodwill counter. -1 if this is a U.S. requested action, you spent 1 AP, so we got a -1. If this is a U.S. requested action, value in the upper left of the world opinion of the U.S. box, which I think is currently at 0. Yeah, so no modifier either way from that. For sanctions, can't be used in a war involving blah 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 blah. Nomadic UN action, blah blah blah. Okay, so we have a -1 for our DRM. So we gotta get a 1 through 5 with a -1 modified D10 roll. 7 -1 is gonna be 6. Not enough, unfortunate. Now we are going to attempt an arms control negotiations. Let's go ahead and reveal our influence. So we got a 2, so that's going to be the modifier for this. So we need a 1 through 5. And so we got a -2 and no other DRMs. So D10 -2. Six -2 is going to be 4. That does... pass. Perfect. So decrease the Iran or North Korean nuclear missile track if successful, and reverse any tensions listed in the new lower box. Alright, so it says reverse any tensions. From what I understand, I would think we also reverse the APs. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we gain an AP from that. And we also remove a tension from North Korea and South Korea. Alright, and then we roll a d10 to determine whether Russia or China gain an influence counter in the region as a result. +8. 8 or more is no influence. Let's hope for an 8 or more. Roll d10. Hey, 8 or more, no influence. Perfect. Cool. All right, that worked. I am good with that. All right, and I think that is all she wrote for UN actions. We're going to put that UN goodwill counter back. And now we get 3 domestic actions. Okay, so domestic actions, we got a couple things we want to do. We want to get our bipartisan cooperation up, and we want to get some of these opponents off of here. In all of my other games, I've actually had more allies than opponents. This is probably the first game I've had where I've been outnumbered with opponents. So let's get my domestic chart. Let's start with discredit, dissuade congressional opponent. So during any action segment in which domestic actions may be taken. And how many did we have? I think we have 3. Is that what I said? Yeah, 3 domestic actions. So, discredit, dissuade. So this is going to be 1 action with an optional cost of 1 AP for -1 DRM. I think, do we go for this guy with the media? Let's see, or do we go for, they're going to have equal amount of congressional power if we got rid of this guy. So I think we're just going to go for the 3. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. So he has media power, so that is going to lose us. Oh, actually, we are not done with the UN actions. There is one thing we forgot. Media slant. Regardless of whether you performed any U.S. Initiated UN actions, check your media relations and apply the public approval benefit or penalty as listed on the box representing your current media relations. Which I think is going to give us a +1 public approval. Yes. So we have a media slant in our favor, so we do get a public approval. Alright. So, back to what we were doing, discrediting our congressional opponents. So this is going to cost 1 action. We can use an AP to give us a -1 DRM. Let's go ahead and do that. So we choose an opponent. We're going to be choosing Douglas Tate here. And we are going to roll a die. We get a -1 if public approval is 60 or greater. It's not. -1 if you spent 1 AP. We did, so we got a -1. Domestic rating of our VP or Chief of Staff, which I think is 1 both ways. So we got -1, -2 altogether. +1 if opponent's legislative rating is 2 or 3. It is. So net of -1. +1 if relations with Congress is less than 4. It's not. So we are going to roll a D6 -1. Got a 1. Perfect. Success. Place the opponent back in the draw cup. That was beautiful. So get out of here, Tate. We don't like your kind around here. So that is good. I would love to get rid of this guy also. But we can only use this once per activation segment, so we rolled our counter, actually. So we were at 3. We used an action, so we're at 2 actions. Next action, I think, is going to be bipartisan cooperation. So this is limited to 1 successful result per activation segment. So if we are not successful, we could try again. This does cost an AP to do, so we're going to roll a D6. DRMs, if we have moderate influence, we don't, so no DRMs. That's going to be a 6, and that's going to be bad. We're going to re-roll that. So spend an AP, re-roll. 5. We got to keep that. So that's just going to be no effect. Our last action is going to be to do the same thing. Unfortunately, we got to use an AP again. And let's roll. 2. I think that is successful. Yes! 2 or less, move bipartisan cooperation counter, write 1 box on the bipartisan cooperation track. So we are not at the worst possible bipartisanship. That's good. Still pretty bad, but good. Alrighty, so that is our domestic actions. So now we are going to do a crisis chit. Looks like we got 2 crisis cards. Let's see what we get. Flooding in the Northeast. We've got a natural disaster. So +1 domestic crisis. Place 1 tension counter on the POTUS cabinet focus. So we always go for the highest first. So we're going to put a tension counter right there. And what that'll do, tension counters on our cabinet focus. That makes it so when we roll for our cabinet focuses, We do not roll for any that have a tension counter on them. Decide whether to spend 0, 1, or 2 APs. Oh my god, we are running so low on APs. Then roll a d6 and subtract the number of APs spent. If 0 or less, America follows your lead with a massive outpouring of donations and volunteerism, plus 2 public approval. Then we move this to the 3 section. 1 through 4, no further effect. 5 plus, your slow-moving response, seen as uncaring, minus 2 public approval. Alright, do we want to spend any APs? Let's spend 1. Just so we can have a possibility of hitting that 0 or less. Alright, roll d6. 2. So 1 through 4, so we didn't have to spend an AP. No further effect, then this gets put to 2. Alright, so that was the first one. Second one. Taliban resurgent in Afghanistan. If there is already a rogue state in Central South Asia, place an unstable state in Central South Asia. Upgrade a level 3, 2, or 1 terror group in that order of priority in Central South Asia by 1 level. Okay, so there is, I believe we are currently at war with the Taliban. Yep. So, there is an unstable, there is a rogue state in Central South Asia, so we're going to place an unstable state in Central South Asia. So that'll be our second unstable state there. Upgrade a level 3, 2, or 1 terrorist group in that order in Central South Asia by 1 level. So I think we have to do this one. So that turns into a level 3 terror group. Not good. If none, place a new level 2 terror group there. Minus 1 regional stability and plus 1 regional crisis. Goddamn. So stability goes down. And plus 1 regional crisis. Again, getting close to that major crisis spot. Hopefully we can lower that. Otherwise, roll d10, so we don't have to do the otherwise. This does go into the reshuffle pile. Alright, so that was our 2 crisis cards. Now we go to war progress. I always have to look in the war book. Let me see here. Where am I looking? World charts. That's what I'm looking for. Alright, found our world charts booklet. What to do in a war. Okay, so determine strength for the US side. So we are going to total all of the connected troops in the area. Oh fuck, we're gonna get a major crisis here, aren't we? Yes. After the war goes off, crisis goes up, so yeah, we're gonna get a major crisis. Oh, sucks to suck. Let's see. Total US strength from US units in the war's region plus any carriers in the region, or in the deployment zones, or in the carrier area, whose arrows point to the world's region. Add the strength of any regional troops counters on the US side. Marine units have a combat strength of 3, blah blah blah, if in, 2 if they're not, for naval war, blah 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 blah. Okay, so we're going to count everything up. So, for our troops, we have a total of... Hold on. Alright, so we've got 1 here, 6 here, 2 here, 3 here, so that's going to be 5, 11, 12, 14, 16, 18, 18, plus 2 will be 20, plus 2 will be 22, plus another 2 will be 24. So So we have a strength of 24. Taliban has a strength of 9, which is going to be 2-to-1 odds. So we determine the odds. So, yep, that's going to be 2-to-1. Unfortunately, we didn't get to 3-to-1. Let's see. We are going to make a roll on the war chart, and we have DRMs here. So if U.S. war and U.S. FNI counter is in the region, we do a -1. That is true. So we got a -1 to the roll. If U.S., Russia, China, Israel is the attacker or defender, -1. So we got a net of -2. If U.S. war and there is a U.S. heavy counter in the region, -1. So there is a net of -3. If U.S. war and there is a USAF counter in the region, USAF. Oh yeah, Air Force counter in the region. There is. So -1. We got a net of -4. If U.S. or ally attacking, defending, and the total of Russia, China's combined influence counters in the region is 2 or more, which it is, +1. So we got a net of -3 to our roll. So we are going to roll a d10, -3. So 2. So we got a 2 at a roll of, or odds of 2-to-1. So we move the war 1 left, 1 defender loss. So they go down to 8. Alright. Now, go back to the military charts here. So apply results. Apply regional impact of war. +1 to regional crises in the war's region. Unfortunately, that puts it at a major crisis. If U.S. forces were involved, they were. Also place 1 U.S. military footprint in the counter in the region. So we do. So now we have to resolve a major crisis. Alright, regional major crisis table. If a major regional crisis breaks out, -2 public approval. Then roll a d10 and apply the result below. Then move the regional crisis counter back to the 2 box on the regional crisis track. We have some DRMs here. -1, 2, or 3 if regional stability is 6, 7, or 8 respectively. That is definitely not the case. +2, +1 if regional stability is 3 or 4 respectively. It is 4, so we got a +1. -1 per very close U.S. ally in the region. India is not very close yet, so we do not get that. +1 per non-ceasefire civil war in the region. There aren't any civil wars. +2 if there's at least 1 war other than the civil war in the region, so that is a +2, so we've got a net of +3. +1 per game created rogue state in the region, so that is going to be a +4. Goddamn. Alright. So not good. So it's going to be a d10 +4. 8. Terror group deploys. Roll d10 to determine the region. So there's a terror group that is deploying from this area into Eurozone. Place a level 1 terror group in Eurozone. Increase Eurozone regional crisis by 1 box. That's not the worst. We can deal with that. This goes down to 2. There is not a refugee crisis, which is good. Cool. All right. Cool. So that could have been worse, I suppose. Back to the war chart. Where are we at? Let's see if I can find my spot. Okay, yep. Apply regional impact war. We did that. If one side wins, nobody did. If neither side wins and no peace, the war continues. This war progress action is finished. You'll perform this process again during the next war process segment. If the U.S. is involved, which it is, You may choose to immediately spend 2 APs to increase military spending for the war effort and to promote public support for the war. +1 to U.S. side's strength in the war. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. We're so low on APs. We won't be able to use much anymore. So we get to increase our strength in the war. So +1 to U.S. side strength in the war. If you spend the APs, make a state of economy check. If you pass, place an improving economy counter on the U.S. state of economy track. So our economy is currently at 7. So we need a 7 or less. We got it, so we place an improving economy marker. So we will take that off. If you do not spend the APs, -2 public approval and place a tension counter on the POTUS cabinet focus. Then make a state of economy check. If you fail, place a worsening economy counter. All right, and I think that is the end. Yes, all right. So that is the end of the war, or the war segment. Moving on to any 4 diplomatic and or military actions. So let me get my charts out. For diplomatic or military actions. Alright. We're deploying blah, blah, blah. Okay, what do we want to do? First, probably want to do some diplomatic stuff. Presidential diplomatic stuff. UN speech is always good. We could invite allies, but we're going to have state of economy impact, and that will actually increase our ally stuff again. Let me so we also want to remove some influence. What has more than 1 influence in it? Eastern Europe has 2 Russian influence in it. It's also always good to remove this Chinese influence from Asia Pacific. China usually attacks that side pretty hard with influence. I have seen it go from 1 influence to a base in not very long. So we might want to start with that. Or do we want to attack that Russian influence? If we attack the Russian influence, we would want to decrease, or we would need to decrease the crisis level here. How many moves do we have? 4? Yeah. Eventually I want to put a DARPA counter over here also. Oh yeah, we wanted to do a summit also, didn't we? Because I think... That's right. If I remember correctly, if China's state of economy is at 4, they will immediately go up to posture 2, which is not good. Takes a while to get them to go to posture 1 again. And then we would also put their axe chit back into the cup. So I don't think we want that. Let's see here. If China is at posture 1 and would not otherwise be entitled to increase their posture, but state of economy is at 3 or 4, yes. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that first. Let's go ahead and do a Chinese summit. Let's see, China summit. Okay, summit time. So our relationship with China is at 4, which means we can work on 3 different problems. So what are the problems we would want to do? Improve relations is always a good one. So that's probably what we will try. Improve relations. Maybe stabilize someplace. Probably Central South Asia? Yeah, probably. Contain rogue state in Asia. No sanctions. No, that's not bad. Control North Korea's nuclear ambitions. That costs an AP, unfortunately. Anti-terror campaign. Wouldn't be bad. Let's start with improved relations. Let's just start there. So, what we're going to do is we are going to roll. So the first thing to address during this summit is to improve relations with China. So we're going to roll a die to see if China wants anything in return, and we can then approve or deny their demands, and then we move on to the next problem. So they have an 8. So what China demands is they want to remove any sanctions on China. If none, increase trade, place an improving economy counter on China. I'm fine with that. So they will not move to posture 1. So we improved relations, place a trending pro-U.S. counter on the China relationship with U.S. track. I'm fine with that. When China acts, their relationship tends to plummet, so I'm good with that. So stabilize, jointly mediate civil war ceasefire. Are there any civil wars on the... I don't think there are any non-ceasefire civil wars currently. That's good. Stabilize Asia, Pacific, Central, South Asia, Africa, or South America. I think we would want to do it to Central, South Asia. But tensions from China and each U.S. ally in the region. Or remove unstable state counter. Oh, that's not bad. Remove any. It is possible to have to put an influence counter if we roll too high here. Let's try it though. So we would like to stabilize Central South Asia. Let's see what China's demands are. Fuck. So they are demanding remove any sanctions on China and +1 China influence counter in the region and +1 AP counter in China. I don't especially want that, so let's say no. So we were successful in our first one, unsuccessful in our second one. Jointly mediate a civil war ceasefire. I don't believe there's anything that we need to do for that. This one to place improving economy. +1 China influence. I think that would be fine. Let's control North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So only if no sanctions on China and relations with U.S. are 3 or higher, and it costs 1 AP for this action. Unfortunate. But let's see what China demands. 5. China demands +1 influence in Asia Pacific, -1 AP on South Korea. That's not that good. Yeah, let's try it though. -1 AP on South Korea. So -1 to North Korea nuclear track, place improving economy on China. So they go down. And then we place an improving economy on China. All right. That was successful, so we had a success rate of 2 out of 3. So let us see what the results of this summit were. 3. +2 public approval for a mostly successful Chinese summit. Remove 1 tension counter from China. Nice. Place a trending pro-U.S. counter on China's relationship with the U.S. So they go up to 5. Nice. China is happy with the U.S. All right. Works out. So that was 1 action for our summit. Now we got 2 actions. Now I would like to remove one of those Chinese influence for sure. Let's go ahead and do that. So we need a 1 through 6 on this roll. And we got it. So let's remove that influence that we put in there. So that was an action. Do we want to do crisis relief anywhere? I think I want to increase our relationships with some places. Probably Central South Asia specifically, so we can get some of these influence out. So, Presidential Master actions may only be used once per activation segment. So I don't think we've done that this segment. Procedure roll D10. On a 1 through 7, we get to add a UN Goodwill counter or place a trending pro-US counter on the regional alignment track in any one world region. Or, you know what? We could actually... We have a military action. What does this do? Use military professionals to treat disease, build schools and clinics, or create other infrastructure in a war-torn region. So this can be used when military actions can be taken. This action may only be taken in regions with a war or a civil war, or where the U.S. has been at war anytime during the turn. Roll a d10. So on a 1 through 2, we would place... 1 through 4, we would place a trending pro-U.S. Excuse me. Secretary of Defense. There is... China, Russia, counter the regions, +1, -1, so it would have... Our DRMs would cancel each other out. So it would just be a D10. A 1 through 4 would be a trending pro-US counter. 5 through 7 would be -1 regional crisis, which would be nice still. 8 to 9, no effect. 10 would be you made it worse, place a trending anti-US counter. So there's a possibility to make them not like us even more than they already dislike us. Let's try to do that. We'll use professionals to treat disease, build schools, clinics, or create other infrastructure in a war-torn region. So like I said, our DRMs cancel each other out. It'll just be a D10 roll. 4. Not bad. Okay, place a trending pro-US counter on the region. Or receive a new UN Goodwill counter. I think we'll just place a trending pro-US counter, which will negate that. -1 to regional crises in the region. Good. If regional crises is already at 0, then remove 1 U.S. military footprint counter. It was not at 0, so we do not get to remove those. Alright, that was an action. We've got one more. Do we want to use a DARPA counter? We could use that at any point, though. We're going to get more military actions over here and here. Is there anything better we could do? We could do that UN speech. And then we could try to up our... That's not bad. That's not a bad idea. Let's do that. So we're going to make a UN speech to create goodwill. One action, roll a d10, 1 through 7. We will be a success. 1 through 7. 3, perfect. So add a UN Goodwill counter or place a trending pro-US counter in the region on the region alignment track in any one world region. So let's go ahead. I think this is our lowest one, right? Let's see, it's currently at 5. South America and Central America both have it at 5 also. Let's go ahead and put it here. I feel like there's more chance. Oh, Middle East is also not liking this. Let's go ahead and put it here. We'll remove that. Yeah, start to get some alignment up. If we get that up, we can start removing that. If we get that up, we can start removing some of these. So yeah, I think that's good. Okay, that would be the end of our diplomatic and military actions. So now we're going to put it on U.S. State of Economy Impact. So for U.S. State of Economy Impact, first we're going to look over here. We get 2 U.S. Economic Assistance. What those do is we can either up our relationship with allies for each one, and or we could put a trending pro-U.S. counter on a region. We have 2 economic assistance turns, so I think we have 2 allies who are not very close. So let's just go ahead and use them both to up our ally relationship. Oh, NATO is also not close anymore. Let's correct that. I had forgotten about that. Okay, yep. So let's do that. I believe Gulf states, Saudi Arabia already acted, so let's go ahead and up our relationship with India as well. Boom. All right. So since we looked on that side of the U.S. state of economy, now we go on this side. So we get +3 public approval. 1, 2, 3. +2 APs. Very nice. We needed those. And +1 relationship with Congress. Nice. So when we started tonight, we were pretty low on relationship with Congress. Now we're very high. I'm happy with that. So that completes this phase. Now we're moving on to phase 3, which is going to start with China acting, because Russia already acted over in phase 1. So China is going to act here, but I think that's where I'm going to end it. I need to go to bed. I got to work in the morning. It's been a while, or it's been a good adventure so far. We've only gotten through 2 phases of the game. This is a long game, though. Thank you, anyone who has watched or is watching or will be watching in the future. Appreciate it. I will be streaming sometime again soon, and hopefully it won't be too long from now. So thank you again. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, morning, whatever time it is in your area, your neck of the woods, and take care.